All right, so today we're talking about vocabulary. A lot of biology is based on vocabulary. So what we're going to try to do is provide you with the basic foundation of vocabulary for each unit. So it's going to be really important that you keep up with the vocabulary, that you kind of know the vocabulary, whether that's in flashcards or if you draw pictures of it and put a word association by it. So as you're kind of building your foundational knowledge of vocabulary for biology, we wanted to make a slideshow to kind of show you the vocabulary for week 1, which some of this you already know, and it will probably be a review, but just in case, you'll have access to it. So let me present this, and hopefully it'll work. So week 1 vocabulary, we're going to keep this in there for you to be able to use at all times. And so the first thing I want to talk to you about is the experiment itself. So the experiment itself is a scientific procedure that tests a theory or hypothesis by observing the interactions between independent and dependent variables. So you'll realize, and you probably already know this, but it's really important that you only have one independent variable. You're only trying to figure out one thing in your experiment. You only have one thing that's different, because if you have more than one thing that's different, then your experiment is going to be skewed, and you don't know what's making the dependent variable measured differently. So it is all an experiment does is just looks at the correlation or the interactions between the two variables. Okay, and hopefully we'll talk about an independent and dependent variable in just a minute so that you have the definition of it. But I've also put it in some notes for something else. The dependent variable is kind of the experimental data. So it's what you're collecting. It's collected through observation or measurement. So for a dependent variable, you have to have a tool, or maybe a meter stick, or maybe a survey. It can be something like that. But a dependent variable is the data at the end that you're trying to collect. Okay, and here's how you graph it. It's dry mix, so you always put the dependent responding variable on the y-axis and the manipulated or independent variable on the x-axis. The independent variable is the condition or factor that is manipulated by the scientist during the experiment. So it's that one thing you change. So let's say if I'm testing brands of paper towel, I want to know if Bounty or Viva or Kroger brand paper towel will absorb more. The independent variable is the type of paper towel. So it could be Bounty, it could be Viva, or it could be the Kroger brand. So the independent variable is that type of paper towel. The dependent variable is how much it absorbed. So I may have absorbed, I would take a paper towel and I would squeeze it into a graduated cylinder and see how many milliliters it absorbs. That's the dependent variable. But the independent variable is what I'm manipulating, or I'm changing, or things like that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that if needed, but that just kind of gives you an idea. The constant is everything else in the experiment that stays the same. So for example, if I'm doing the paper towel experiment and I have to use everything else the same, so I can absorb water the whole time with the different brands of paper towel. I need to be in my classroom the whole time. I need to keep my environment the same. One of the things I can't change is, like, one of the paper towels collect water, and one of them collects apple juice, and one of them collects milk. I have to keep those variables constant, since the brands of paper towel is what I'm measuring. Okay, I hope that makes sense. But everything else besides your independent and dependent variable has to stay constant, or the experiment's not a good experiment. So a theory is just a proposed explanation of a wide range of observations and experimental results that are supported by a wide range of evidence. So a theory has been tested, and it's like many labs put together. And when I put many labs together, and a lot of data together, I come up with this theory. And it could be that you can't just depend on one experiment. So I don't know, some of these can be pretty vague, but maybe the theory is, after doing a lot of experiments and collecting a lot of data, my theory is brands of paper towel made out of plant material are better than those made out of plastics or something like that. After you have a lot of data, you can come up with a theory. Okay, so then there's different groups, and this is what you're going to need for today's responses. But there's different groups that you look at in an experiment. There's an experimental group. So in an experimental group, this is the group of organisms or subjects that are exposed to the variables in the experiment. So what is being exposed to the variables? And let me see if I can move my camera. I hope. Sorry. So down here it shows you the effect of biofertilizer X on plant growth. So the experimental group is the one that was, the plants are going to grow no matter what. But I put the fertilizer into the can with the X on it. So that's the experimental group. Does that make sense? And then the one without the new stuff, that's the control group. So hopefully that makes sense. The control group is the other one, the group of the study that does not undergo the treatment of variables. So it's used as like a comparison group. So, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but that'll give you an idea. So those are kind of the main little bit of vocabulary you need for today's assignment. And so I just wanted to make sure I talk through them and that you know them so you can answer the questions well. Again, if you have any questions, please contact me. I've given you 2 ways to contact me. You can do that through Canvas inbox, and you can also do that through my Google Voice number. You can text me, 832-819-2773. If you have any questions, you can text me through that if that's an easier way to get a hold of me. Okay? I will talk to you later. Thanks so much.